This is the growth strategist, Aldonna Ambler, with your growth strategy tip of the week. I want to talk about roll-ups. I'm not talking about fruit roll-ups that you eat. I'm talking about a key investor that is buying a series of companies within an industry to amass a larger business. And, that was pretty popular in the late 80s and early 90s. And frankly, it was easier to get the financing at that point. And then they went kind of out of vogue in the 2000s. It always sounds so funny, that decade seems to disappear, but it wasn't as easy to get the financing, so they weren't as popular. And they're coming back again, and that's good and bad. I participated in a few roll-ups in the 90s, and a few of them were really wonderful. They were a way for 15, 16 companies that had been working together anyway to come together and continue to work and not go away, even when their entrepreneurial owners were ready for their next ventures and wanted to go on to something else. And the owners ended up getting good money, good multiples for what they had done, and it kept the staffs together as groups. So it can be really good. My concern is that some of the reasons for roll-ups now lead to secrecy, rather than an open discussion of how can we work together and how can we collaborate. In other words, take some baby boomers that are still working, that really wanted to retire a while ago, or wanted to retire in a few years, and now they feel like they're stuck having to work for a long time. So there's indecision about whether or not they're coming or going. And they're negotiating about the price of their business, and one minute they're going to say, if I don't get a huge amount of money, I'm not going to do it. And then the next minute they're so tired, they'll take less. There's also an issue related to family businesses, in that a large portion of privately held companies, a very large portion, depends on where you are in the country, are family held. And the second and the third generations are a little more reluctant to step up and do all the hard work that their parents did for the small return they seem to be getting. So there is a crisis of leadership in a number of companies. And nobody, a lot of people don't want to talk about that openly, especially if one of the options is, let's just sell. So a roll-up adds to that secrecy. Now, why is that a problem? One of the issues is that it is disruptive and distracting to the leadership of the company. And so momentum is lost. Customers might not be visited or followed up with, or new products might not be created, because the owners are preoccupied trying to do valuations, negotiate, make a decision, meet with each other. And employees can sense that something's different, but they don't know what it is. And they can also misinterpret it. They can feel like maybe we're in financial trouble. Maybe we're not as innovative as I thought. And so there's an inertia that's created inadvertently from the distraction. So I'm a little concerned about the roll-ups that are out there. And another reason I'm concerned about it is that in a way it makes it look like exit strategies are being talked about and dealt with, and they're not. Could you think about a more transparent process for your employees and for yourself? They can look at you and know your age. They're curious about what you're going to do anyway. More employees are wanting to buy into a company but don't know how. And we don't want to skip the process of finding out if employees could buy, if they could figure out a way to finance it. Sometimes when you spread the risk, it's more doable, and the legacy of the business is protected. One of the things that I'm the most grateful that I've ever done was an ESOP. Now, ESOPs have fallen out of favor too, just by the way money works. But employees can find some financing, and a piece at a time, employee ownership, can be more rewarding for the business, more stable for the business, help employee retention, and actually end up with the owner getting the kind of company and getting the kind of money that he or she was wanting, without disrupting the flow or killing the goose that laid the golden egg. Just a thought. Is the secrecy around your exit strategy serving you well? I'll tell you what, you might want to be a fly on the wall to learn what a roll-up artist is learning about your business. Think about it. They're going to you and your competitors, and they're studying the industry. And as they interview you about what you want and what makes your company different than the other ones, they're learning about differentiation. They're learning about strengths and weaknesses that you may not know. So if they buy one company that's really good at marketing, they may get rid of the accounting department of that company. If they buy another company that's really good with operations, they may keep those systems but get rid of the way they do administration. You know, they're looking for complementary kinds of companies. If you could just get into their minds to learn what's going on in your own business and your competitors, you might not need the roll-up artist. And there's my punchline. If a roll-up is active in your industry, why wouldn't you want to talk to some of your competitors to learn the same thing that they're revealing to a potential buyer? Because if you combine together and you involve your employees, it's harder at first, but you can learn how to do it. You may end up with more, and you may end up with less disruption.